gentlemen, and welcome to our today's program, The Situation. Sometimes we get to a point where we no longer know what's happening around us. We cannot always change what's happening around us, but we can change what's happening within us. This program, The Situation, interrogates issues happening around the world and brings to you situational awareness. We believe that by putting you in the know regarding issues happening around the world, a change can be triggered within you, and only then can you change what's happening around you. Our today's program focuses on the Sino Africa relationship, the relationship between China and Africa. Well, a lot has been said about the relationship between China and Africa. China, under the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, has made a lot of inroads in Africa, and this has raised a lot of eyebrows. Now, to kick us off, here are a few things you need to know about the Sino Africa relationship. China, with its booming economy, brimming coffers, and thirst for resources, has intensified its relationship with Africa. Now, this relationship between China and Africa has seen the continent bloom into a multi-billion-dollar proportion. Now, China, in recent years, China in 2010 overtook Japan as the world's second largest economy, just after the US. Experts predict that by the year 2025, China will supersede the United States of America as the world's leading economy. Now, China is Africa's largest trading partner, surpassing the US in 2009. China, in recent years, has joined the United Nations peacekeeping missions in Africa in countries like Liberia and the DRC. China is also supporting the push for an African country to be given a permanent seat in the UN's Security Council. And China is also taking a number of projects in Africa. In 2015, under the umbrella of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, China committed a whopping $60 billion on Africa. This has seen tremendous contributions in the field of industry, agricultural modernization, trade, finance, health, among others. China has also improved the people-to-people relationship with Africa. This has seen approximately 1 million Chinese visit Africa every year. Now, preliminary estimates indicate that through the Sino-Africa relationship, 30,000 kilometers of highways will be completed, 85 million tons per year of harbor capacity will be implemented, 9 million tons per day of water capacity will be given to African citizens, 20,000 megawatts of power generating capacity will be initiated, and about 900,000 jobs will be created in Africa. Many people argue that the Sino-Africa relationship is a win-win situation for Africa, while others see this as China's strategy to siphon resources from Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, I sampled a few views from people from different countries of Africa listening.
My name is Leo. I'm a Nigerian, an educationist. As you can see behind me, there's a whole lot of charts there. A core educationist, but also a businessman.
Well, we are interrogating the relationship between Africa and China, the Sino-Africa relationship. Can you tell us, what do you think? Do you think it is a win-win situation for Africa, or do you think that China is hiding something from us?
First and foremost, I will start by saying the Chinese are known for high level of industrialization. Africa, on the other hand, we depend on two things, or will I say three things. One of the first thing we depend on is agriculture, which we currently know is not actually doing much for Africa. Then we also depend on the likes of sales of crude oil. Then in some countries they experience or they depend on the likes of tourism, the likes of Kenya. Um, if you look at China, and if I want to use the word there, if you look at China, you discover that they are actually one of the top nation which is booming in terms of economy or economy wise. The reason why they are actually booming is the fact that they are highly industrialized. And industrialization in China has led them to the point whereby they are, in a way, above America, US. So if you have a bond between the Chinese and the Africans, or China and Africa, you know, definitely know it's a good relationship. They are going to be bringing lots of industries. When you bring in lots of industries, it simply means you're going to have high level of employment. If there's high level of employment, there's increase in standard of living. If there's increase in standard of living, obviously the environment is going to develop. So to me, it's a win-win situation. I know there might be ulterior motives for them because, of course, you're going to benefit. You can't invest in a country where you're not going to benefit. But in a way, Africa to themselves, we're also going to benefit. So,
well, if I may ask, China is going around giving debts, lots of money to African countries, and some analysts have described this as a debt trap diplomacy. What do you think of this?
You see, we have in Africa, one of our greatest problems is leadership. We have a major problem with leadership. If we have good leaders, I don't see us going to seek for fund in the likes of China. But because we have bad leadership, we do require funds from every organization, from every country we can get. Nigeria currently, we are owing a whole lot of money. We get lots of funds from the likes of US and also the World Bank. So if they are actually giving a certain amount of funds to the government of different countries, and the governments are utilizing these funds to develop the nation, it's not a big deal. I know there's going to be interest which is going to be acquired or accrued. Just like every other nation, the likes of Greece, they're experiencing the same thing. They are owing certain amount of money. Venezuela, you want me to name it? So Africa is not exceptional. So, but the thing is, what are the funds used for? If the funds are gotten and are used to develop the environment, and industries are, shooting in from every corner, it's a good thing. But the problem is the leaders get this money and they split it amongst themselves. Eventually, they get to take the money back to Switzerland, which is where the World Bank is. So then again, we're still in the same situation. So it's not necessarily it's a bad thing. The thing is, they're giving it to bad leaders. So eventually, the citizens will get to suffer from the whole nonsense. So I don't think it's a bad thing which they're trying to help. They're trying to help every nation the best way they can. It's an investment in a way because there's an interest there. But if we're wise, we'll use it and give them their interest back. But of course, we'll still be behind.
Is China's approach benefiting Africans, or is it an exploitation from yet another emerging economy? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have here Fola from Nigeria. Mr. Fola,
yes.
What do you think of the Africa-China relationship? Is it a win-win situation for Africa, or do you think there's more than meets the eye?
Well, I don't blame China per se because China have gone a long way, being a nation of its own, and more or less being a continent of its own. But all I see about China or Chinese people, they are well-dedicated people, they mean business, and at the same time, I have used the word discipline, which is one of those things that is really missing in Africa. What China is doing, so also we can do likewise in Africa. But no one is happy about the leadership, management, and administration in Africa. Why do we have to go to China? The product and the produce, the resources that we have in Africa is enough to save us. But in a situation whereby you have bad managers, bad leaders, bad administrator and administration, maladministration, you can never think of having anything profitable from Africa. It's rather unfortunate that even for us, I could remember very vividly when we are very young, when we are struggling in those days, going to public school. I remember my parents saying in those days, when from the background, the culture where I came from, they would tell you, oh, my child, don't be angry, things will be okay. For a person, I'm not happy with my country, and I'm not happy with the leader. Right now, June this year, by the grace of God, I'll be 50. So what else are you talking about? The same old saying that my parents are telling me things will be better. My child, take it easy, things will be okay. Things are not okay. Nigeria is rich in all the resources you can think about, rich in crude oil, rich in gold, rich in other resources you can think about. A product which they can use to produce cement, fertilizer, and even before now, even before independence, before the oil boom, what are we depending on? We were depending solely on agriculture. What is the big deal? What is the problem? Even before the issue of China came in, we've been in partnership with America, with the British, even though we know that in order to meet with the customer needs, people are looking at user-friendly because the economy is no longer at ease as it used to be. You know, I think the leaders of Africa or Nigeria, for example, they are looking at product or something which they can easily purchase in terms of affordability. I think this is what has pushed them into issue of having relationship or business relationship with China. But they should be careful, because this is what we are all experiencing today. They should be careful and they should watch out, because I don't think, as per my own contribution or suggestion, I don't see anything good relationship coexistent with China, because all what China are bringing to Africa, if we are really disciplined, we can as well produce it. And their quality product, I can say this one, is all bad product. I don't enjoy it. They are very bad product. That's it. Thank you.
African resources remain top of Xi Jinping's agenda for Africa, but also diplomacy of recognition and the search for markets for Chinese goods is also a driving force.
Viewers, we have Nelion Ustad. Nelion, we are interrogating the Sino Africa relationship, and a lot of people argue that China is out to siphon African resources. What do you think of this?
Thank you for your question. Before I give my comprehensive review about the relationship between Africa and China, first of all, I wish us to have a review or a throwback during the time of the crumbling partition of Africa. During the colonial time, Africa provided like a fertile ground for the scrambling partition of the countries of Africa. And since that time, it has been noted that Africa have always been having an inclination towards either the West, and now we are moving towards the East. Now, our leaders have proved from that time that however that we have got the independence, we have not proved to ourselves that really we are independent. And because of this reason, other countries are taking advantage to take over and to come to Africa. Probably when they're coming, they have their own motives. So China is taking an advantage. They have one of their policies that they established some time back, and they say that by 2030, they want to make sure that every household throughout the world, they have at least an item in their house made in China. However, I'm not sure about this, but at least there is some kind of truth in it. Coming to the political relationship, because of our leaders also, who are not firm to the ground on what they want to achieve, they are establishing a weak political relationship with the Chinese, so that by the end of the day, it is the Chinese who are like controlling the African countries. I remember one time reading one of the novel in Swahili called Mashetani. This novel tended to argue that after getting the independence, we were only like a vessel which had been moved to the sea. But others show they are still either pulling us back in the name that we are independent, but we're not moving forward. So they keep on pulling us back, keeping on pulling us back, and that proves that the Chinese people, they have just setting us to move, but they're really controlling a lot of the economic power, a lot of the political powers. And for this reason, in my view, the Chinese people, they are really moving back to Africa for their own good, but not for the good of the African. That is my opinion.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Nelio. But one more question. It is being said that China's diplomacy to Africa is a debt trap diplomacy. What is your opinion?
About promises to Africa, there is nothing which comes cheaply. There is nothing that you can be given really for free. Anything that you receive, it must have a payback. The Chinese people, they are really very clever, far much ahead of us. They will tell you, they are giving you some kind of promise in terms of aid. Let's say they are giving Africans some of the medical facilities, for example. Once they will give you this kind of medical facility, then they will have to say they need to also give you some of their medical experts. So they are going to have that kind of transhumance of their medic people from China to come and manipulate by the value that you are given this equipment. Look another instance. They say that they are going to give you loans and you are going to use them maybe for road construction or for train or railway access, something like this. Then they will say they are going to manage this particular facility for the next 10 years. So Africans, what are you doing during the 10 years? Who are benefiting? Was it a loan or it was a payback? Who is benefiting from this kind of loan that we are really acquiring from the Chinese people? We need to be bright enough. Really, anything that is given to Africa, it must have a payback. And really not simple as we may think. It is a massive, massive payback. However long it will take, our future generations will have to face the acts of this kind of aid that we are receiving from the China.
Well, China's cooperation with Africa is based on an integrated approach of trade, investment, and aid. This is a total deviation from the Western approach. Most Western countries participated and invested more on extractive industries because their sole agenda was to plunder the resources from Africa. This is not what China is doing, and therefore very many African countries see China as an opportunity to break free from their colonial powers, the colonial masters.
We have an opinion from a gentleman here. What do you think about the relationship between China and Africa? Do you think it's a win-win situation for Africa, or do you think China is having a lot more than we can think of?
Of course, they are having a lot more than we think of, because no one just comes to help. Obviously, China is benefiting because there is no one who just helps you out of nothing and you don't expect them to benefit. But sometimes you feel they are there for us and they are helping the way they can. So if you have an option, if you do not have an option, you just give them the chance to do that, and you are not worried about how they are going to benefit in the long run, because it's either you get that from them or you get it from no one. Because if you look at most countries in Africa, They've been removed from the EU. They've been under maybe sanctions from the United States, and there is no help. There is economic crackdown, and if China comes in with that small help, even if you are a politician or a leader of a country, you just accept. I think it's rational to give them credit instead of just looking at the bad things maybe that will come after it.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching this program. Until next time, stay blessed.